to Andy Downs. Is that right? All right. Andy Downs, director of Mike Downs Center at Indiana Politics at Indiana University, talking about this race in which, Andy, Mike Braun is the winner. Tell us about what we have been watching there. You're in Fort Wayne, Indiana. This was a case where Mike Braun was really making a concerted effort to distinguish himself to voters from his two competitors.
He started out very early defining himself, and he did it as an outsider. He did it as a business person, somebody who's going to fight for workers in the state of Indiana. And he managed to hold that message throughout the entire campaign. So even when Rokita and Messer began to try and label him as somebody who actually is a politician, somebody who is a Democrat for having voted in Democratic primaries, it just didn't stick the way they were hoping it would. And in many respects, they got into it a little bit too late because Braun had effectively defined himself.
And was his win expected then?
You know, for a lot of people around the state for the last week or so, they've been speculating that it was probably going to be him, although it was a three-way race, which can always go in a number of directions. So people weren't willing to make too big a bet, but there were a lot of people in the state who were starting to say it was probably Braun's race to lose.
And how do you anticipate Braun will fare against Senator Donnelly in November?
It's going to be an interesting campaign because they'll both say that they're there working for us. And the question is, will it be the outsider candidate who's there, and that's the message that delivers or that is accepted well by the voters? Or is it going to be that the bipartisan person is the person we want in D.C.? I think those are the biographies that we're going to hear an awful lot about over the next several months.
Well, Vice President Mike Pence's brother, Greg Pence, has won the congressional race in Indiana's 6th District. What sort of campaign did he run, and what drew voters to him?
You know, it's interesting because he had obviously great name recognition, and it looks enough like his brother. Some people may have thought they were actually voting for him, just didn't know his first name. But he raised a lot of money. He did not do a lot of earned media. He actually avoided talking to the media quite often and said that he was going out and speaking directly to the voters. Some people say he was doing that because he wasn't really well prepared or wasn't going to be able to speak well with the media. But it's a strategy that clearly worked because he's won by quite a margin, and I would expect that he'd continue to do that. He's not going to have a huge challenge in November. It's a very strong Republican district, but I think he'll see this as a path that worked, and he'll use it again in November.
Well, Indiana is home to both a big agricultural sector and a manufacturing base. Are the president's recent tariffs on steel and aluminum affecting voters?
You know, those are interesting things to look at because in the state, because of the manufacturing base, we find tariffs to be an interesting topic. Sometimes we want them because it means jobs in the state. But at the same time, the people who are employed in the ag industry, they don't necessarily like them because it means they can't export their products the way they would like to. And so you see sort of both sides of the issue here. The issue in some respects then comes down to the number of voters. There are far more people employed in manufacturing than there are in agriculture, although the Farm Bureau continues to be a very strong interest group in the state of Indiana.
All right, Andy Downs in Indiana for us. Andy, thank you.
Thank you.